Jake Morrison looked out the small window of his ship and saw the biggest space station he had ever seen. Centauri Prime was like a small metal planet floating in the darkness of space. Thousands of lights blinked on its surface, and ships from dozens of different worlds were docked at its many ports. "Holy cow," said Amy Brooks, his second in command. She was a tough woman from Texas who had served with Jake for 3 years. "That thing is huge." "The files said it was big, but not this big," added Paul Martinez, their engineer. He was a quiet man from California who could fix anything that broke. "How many people live on that station?" Jake checked his notes. "About 50 million from over 100 different planets." He took a deep breath. "And we're about to meet representatives from all of them." Their ship, the U.S. Liberty, was small compared to most of the vessels around the station. Earth had only been traveling between stars for 20 years. Most of the other races had been doing it for thousands of years. Jake felt like a kid walking into a room full of adults. "Incoming message from Centauri Prime," said Amy, working at her control panel. "They're giving us docking instructions." The voice that came through their speakers was strange and electronic. "Human vessel, you are cleared for docking bay 94. Follow the blue lights. Welcome to Centauri Prime." As they flew closer to the station, Jake could see the different sections built by different alien races. Some parts looked like giant crystals. Others were made of what looked like living coral. The human section was small and new, just a few rooms added in the last year. "Nervous?" Amy asked Jake as they prepared to dock. "A little," Jake admitted. "We've been trying to join the Galactic Council for 5 years. This is our big chance." Paul looked up from his controls. "What do you think they'll ask us to do?" Jake had been wondering the same thing. Every race that joined the council had to prove they were worthy. The peaceful Aldari had to show their healing abilities. The tech-savvy Korans had to solve a complex computer problem. The warrior race called the Fakari had to defeat a champion in combat. "I guess we'll find out," Jake said as their ship settled into the docking bay. The airlock opened with a hiss, and they stepped onto the station. The first thing Jake noticed was how clean everything was. The second thing was how many different types of beings were walking around. He saw tall, thin creatures with blue skin. Short, round beings covered in fur. Some aliens looked almost human, while others were so strange he couldn't figure out how they moved. A tall alien with gray skin and forearms approached them. "Commander Morrison?" It asked in perfect English. "I am Counselor Vex. We have been expecting you." Jake shook one of the alien's hands. "Thank you for meeting us. Please follow me. The other counselors are waiting." They walked through wide corridors filled with aliens from across the galaxy. Jake noticed that many of them stopped to stare at the humans. Some looked curious. Others seemed less friendly. "First time on Centauri Prime?" Counselor Vex asked. "First time off our home system," Jake replied. "We're still pretty new to all this." "Yes, we know. Your species has made remarkable progress in a very short time. Most races take centuries to develop star travel." They entered a large chamber with a curved ceiling that showed the stars outside. 20 different aliens sat at a horseshoe-shaped table. Jake recognized some of them from his briefings. The Centaurians looked like lions that walked on 2 legs. The Korans had smooth, pale skin and large black eyes. The Mindari were tall and thin with heads that seemed too big for their bodies. "Welcome, humans," said a Centaurian at the center of the table. "I am High Counselor Zara. We have reviewed your application to join the Galactic Council." Jake stepped forward. "We're honored by your consideration." "Your species shows promise," Zara continued. "You have developed impressive technology and have shown you can work together. But every race must prove their worth before joining the Council. What do you need us to prove?" Jake asked. A murmur went through the room. Some of the aliens seemed to be laughing, though it was hard to tell with some of the stranger species. For 3,000 years, Zara said, we have had a tradition. Any race that wishes to join the council must face our champion in the arena. If they can survive for 5 minutes, they prove they are worthy. Amy stepped closer to Jake. What kind of champion? Another counselor, this one looking like a giant insect, spoke up. Kethver the Undying. He has never been defeated. He has never been touched. He has never shown mercy. What happened to the other races that tried? Paul asked. Some withdrew their applications, Zara said. Others sent champions who were defeated in seconds. A few were killed. Jake felt his stomach tighten. And if we refuse? Then you wait. Another 50 years before you can apply again, Zara said. Those are the rules. The room fell silent. Jake looked at Amy and Paul. They had come so far, worked so hard to get here. Earth needed to be part of the Galactic Council. There were threats in space that no single planet could handle alone. Can we see recordings of previous fights? Jake asked. Of course, Zara said. You have 3 days to prepare. Choose your champion wisely. As they left the council chamber, Jake's mind was racing. He had read about alien champions in his briefings, but he hadn't expected this. Amy and Paul were quiet as they walked back to their ship. Jake, Amy said once they were alone, nobody has ever lasted 5 minutes against this guy. Maybe we should wait 50 years. Earth can't wait 50 years, Jake replied. We need allies now. But if we send someone and they die, it'll be on us, Paul said. Jake nodded. He knew Paul was right. But he also knew they had to try. That night, he sat alone in his quarters, looking at the files about Kethvar. The ancient warrior was 12 feet tall and covered in armor that looked like it was made of crystal. He had fought for 3,000 years and never lost. But as Jake read through the reports, he started to notice something. Every champion who had faced Kethvar had fought the same way. They had all tried to be stronger, faster, more skilled. And they had all failed. Maybe, Jake thought, it was time to try something different. Outside his window, the stars were bright and cold. Somewhere on this station, an ancient warrior was waiting for the next fool to challenge him. Jake Morrison, a farm boy from Ohio who had joined the Marines to see the world, never imagined he would be thinking about fighting an alien champion for the future of his entire species. But here he was, and he was starting to get an idea. Jake spent the next morning in the station's library, reading everything he could find about Kethvar. The ancient warrior belonged to a race called the Vorthik, beings who had been old when most of the galaxy was still young. They valued honor above everything else and saw fighting as an art form. Amy found him there, surrounded by data tablets and holographic displays. Jake, you've been here for 6 hours. Have you eaten anything? Look at this, Jake said, pointing to a recording of Kethvar's last fight. The champion was a Mektar warrior, enhanced with cybernetic implants. He was faster than any human, stronger than 10 men. Watch what happens. The recording showed a massive arena filled with cheering. Aliens. Kethvar entered first, his crystal armor gleaming under the lights. He moved like a dancer, each step careful and graceful. The Mektar champion came in next, his metal implants whirring and clicking. The fight lasted 12 seconds. Kethvar moved so fast he seemed to blur. One moment the Mektar was charging forward, the next he was lying unconscious on the arena floor. He's fast, Amy said, but we knew that. No, look closer, Jake said, rewinding the recording. Watch his movements. He doesn't just react to what the Mektar does. He knows what the Mektar is going to do before he does it. Paul joined them, carrying a tray of food. I brought sandwiches. You need to eat. Thanks, Jake said, but he kept watching the recording. I've seen 50 fights now. Different species, different fighting styles, different weapons. But they all make the same mistake. What mistake? Amy asked. They fight like warriors, Jake said. They attack, they defend, they try to overpower him. But Kethver has been fighting warriors for 3,000 years. He knows every move, every technique, every strategy. Paul sat down next to them. So what are you thinking? Jake was quiet for a moment. My grandfather used to tell me stories about World War II. He said the best soldiers weren't always the strongest or the fastest. They were the ones who could think differently, who could surprise the enemy. Jake, Amy said carefully, you're not seriously thinking about fighting. This guy yourself, are you? Someone has to, Jake said. And I've been studying his fights. I think I see something everyone else missed. What? Paul asked. He's bored, Jake said. Look at his posture in the later recordings. He's not excited about fighting anymore. He's just going through the motions. Amy shook her head. Even if that's true, it doesn't change the fact that he's 12 feet tall and covered in armor that can stop energy weapons. No, Jake said, but it might change how he fights. They spent the rest of the day in the archives. Jake learned that the Vorthik had once been explorers, traveling the galaxy and learning from other cultures. But over time, they had become more isolated, more focused on their own traditions. Kethver was the last of his kind, the final guardian of ancient ways. He's lonely, Jake said as they walked back to their quarters. He's been fighting for 3,000 years, and no one has ever challenged him in a way that interested him. That's very sad, Amy said, but it doesn't help us win. Maybe winning isn't the point, Jake said. The next day, Jake requested a meeting with Counselor Vex. The gray-skinned alien met him in a small office overlooking the arena. Commander Morrison, Vex said, I hope you have chosen your champion. I have, Jake said. I'll fight Kethver myself. Vex's 4 eyes widened. That is unexpected. Are you certain? Your species has many skilled warriors. Perhaps someone with more combat experience would be better. I'm sure, Jake said. But I have a question. What exactly are the rules of the challenge? The rules are simple, Vex said. Your champion must survive in the arena with Kethver for 5 minutes. No weapons are forbidden. No fighting style is forbidden. The only rule is that the challenge must be faced with honor. And what does honor mean to a Vorthik? Jake asked. Vex seemed surprised by the question. Respect for one's opponent. Appreciation for the art of combat. Understanding that true strength comes not from defeating others, but from the beauty of the struggle itself. Jake nodded. Thank you. That's exactly what I needed to know. That evening, Jake told Amy and Paul about his decision. They were both upset. Jake, this is crazy, Amy said. You're a good soldier, but you're not a superhuman fighter. This alien has been alive since before humans discovered fire. I know, Jake said, but I'm not going to try to be a superhuman fighter. Then what are you going to do? Paul asked. Jake smiled. I'm going to dance. Both of his friends stared at him. Dance? Amy said. What are you talking about? Every fighter who has faced Kethver has tried to beat him at his own game, Jake said. They've tried to be better warriors. But what if I don't fight like a warrior at all? I don't understand, Paul said. When I was a kid, my mom made me. Take dance lessons, Jake said. I hated it at the time, but I learned something important. Dancing isn't about being stronger or faster than your partner. It's about moving together, understanding each other, creating something beautiful. Amy looked at him like he had lost his mind. You're going to dance with a 12-foot alien who has never been defeated in 3,000 years? I'm going to try, Jake said. Think about it. What if no one has ever touched Kethver, not because he's unbeatable, but because no one has ever tried to connect with him instead of defeating him? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard, Paul said. Probably, Jake agreed. But it's also the only plan we have that might work. The next morning, Jake stood in the arena during practice time. The space was huge, with seats for thousands of spectators. The floor was made of some kind of smooth metal that would provide good footing. He closed his eyes and tried to imagine what it would be like to face Kethver here. Commander Morrison? Jake opened his eyes and saw a massive figure standing at the other end of the arena. It was Kethvar himself. Up close, the ancient warrior was even more impressive. His crystal armor seemed to grow from his skin, and his eyes were like liquid silver. You are the human who will challenge me, Kethvar. Said. His voice was deep and resonant, like distant thunder. Yes, Jake said. I'm Jake Morrison. I have watched recordings of your species' warriors, Kethvar said. You are skilled in your own way, but I have fought beings with strength beyond. Your imagination, speed beyond your comprehension, weapons beyond your technology. What makes you think you can succeed where they have failed? Jake looked up at the ancient warrior. I don't think I can beat you, he said honestly. But I don't think that's really what this is about. For the first time in centuries, Kethver looked surprised. What do you mean? I mean that maybe after 3,000 years, you're tired of fighting warriors, Jake said. Maybe you're ready for something different. Kethver was quiet for a long moment. We shall see, human, we shall see. As the ancient warrior walked away, Jake felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. Tomorrow, he would face an opponent who had never been defeated. But for the first time since arriving at Centauri Prime, he felt like he might actually have a chance, not to win, but to do something even more important, to surprise everyone, including himself. The morning of the challenge, Jake woke up early and sat quietly in his room. Outside his window, he could see ships from across the galaxy arriving at the station. Word had spread about the human who dared to challenge Kethver. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Amy knocked on his door. Jake, how are you feeling? Nervous, he admitted as she came in. But ready. You don't have to do this, she said. Even now, we could find another way. Jake shook his head. No, this is right. I can feel it. Paul arrived with breakfast, but Jake could barely eat. His stomach was full of butterflies. In 3 hours, he would face the most dangerous opponent in the known galaxy. The arena is filling up, Paul said, looking out the window. I've never seen so many different species in one place. What are they saying? Jake asked. Most of them think this will be over in seconds, Amy said. Some are betting on how long you'll last. The current record is 8 seconds. Jake tried to smile. Well, at least I have a goal. At 10 o'clock, Counselor Vex came to escort them to the arena. As they walked through the corridors, Jake noticed that crowds of aliens had gathered to watch him pass. Some pointed and whispered. Others just stared. Are you ready for this? Vex asked. As ready as I'll ever be, Jake said. The arena was packed. 50,000 beings from across the galaxy had come to watch. Jake had never seen so many different types of aliens in one place. The noise was incredible, a mix of languages and sounds that hurt his ears. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species, announced a voice that somehow translated into every language at once. Today we witness a challenge that has not been seen in 50 years. A representative of the species, known as humans, has requested to face Kethvar the Undying. The crowd went wild. Some cheered, others booed, many just made sounds Jake couldn't identify. The challenger has 5 minutes to survive in the arena with our champion. If he succeeds, his species will be welcomed into the Galactic Council. If he fails ... well, Let us hope he does not fail too badly. Jake stood at the entrance to the arena floor, his heart pounding. Amy and Paul were beside him, both looking worried. "Remember," Amy said, "if things go wrong, just try to stay alive until the time runs out." "I will," Jake promised. "And Jake?" Paul said. "Good luck." The announcer's voice boomed again. Entering the arena first, the challenger. From the planet Earth, Jake Morrison. Jake walked onto the arena floor, and the crowd fell silent. He was wearing his simple military uniform and combat boots. No armor, no weapons, no protection of any kind. He looked impossibly small under the bright lights. The silence stretched on for several seconds. Then the whispers started. Jake could hear fragments of conversation being translated through his earpiece. Where is his armor? What kind of weapons does he carry? Is this human insane? And now, the announcer said, the champion who has never been defeated, who has never been touched, who has never shown mercy. The last of the Vorthic warriors, Kethfer the Undying. The arena erupted in cheers as Kethfer entered. He was even more impressive under the bright lights. His crystal armor caught the light and threw it back in brilliant flashes. He moved with the grace of a dancer and the power of a stormed out Jake watched the ancient warrior approach and felt something he hadn't expected. Not fear, exactly, but awe. Kethvar was beautiful in a way that was almost beyond description. Every movement was perfect, every step placed with precision. The two opponents faced each other in the center of the arena. The size difference was shocking. Kethvar stood 12 feet tall, his armor making him look even larger. Jake barely reached his chest. "Human," Kethvar said, his voice carrying clearly across the arena. "Where are your weapons?" "I don't have any," Jake replied. "Where is your armor?" "I don't have any." The crowd started to murmur again. This was not what they had expected. "Then how do you plan to fight me?" Kethvar asked. Jake looked up at the ancient warrior and smiled. "I told you yesterday. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to dance with you." The arena exploded in noise. Some aliens were shouting in anger, others in confusion. The word dance was being translated into dozens of languages, creating a babel of sound. Silence. Kethvar's voice cut through the noise like a blade. The arena fell quiet instantly. The ancient warrior looked down at Jake with those liquid silver eyes. "In 3,000 years, no opponent has ever spoken to me like this." "You mock the sacred challenge?" "No," Jake said. "I respect it. But I also think maybe you're tired of the same old dance. Maybe you want to try something new." Kethvar was quiet for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he laughed. It was a sound like distant thunder rolling across the arena. "Very well, human. Show me this dance of yours." The arena clock began to count down. 5 minutes. Jake had 5 minutes to survive with the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy. But as Kethvar raised his massive hands, Jake felt something unexpected. He wasn't afraid anymore. He was excited. "Let's dance," Jake said. Kethvar's first attack came faster than lightning. His crystal-armored fist shot toward Jake's head with enough force to crush stone. Any normal person would have been killed instantly. But Jake wasn't there when the fist arrived. Instead of trying to block or dodge the traditional way, Jake had flowed to the side like water. The punch passed through the space where he had been standing, and Kethvar's momentum carried him forward. The crowd gasped. No one had ever avoided Kethvar's first attack so smoothly. The ancient warrior spun around, his silver eyes wide with surprise. "How did you—" "You're stronger than me," Jake said, already moving again as Kethvar launched another attack. "You're faster than me. You're tougher than me. But you've been fighting the same way for 3,000 years. Jake spun under a sweeping strike that would have taken his head off, then rolled away from a stomp that cracked the arena floor. "I've been watching your fights," Jake continued, flowing around another series of attacks. "You're not just fighting your opponents. You're fighting their expectations, their traditions, their rigid ways of thinking." Kethvar paused, his massive frame trembling with something that might have been excitement. "You see it," he said. "You actually see it." "I see a warrior who's been alone for 3,000 years, Jake said. "I see someone who's forgotten what it's like to be surprised." The ancient warrior's attacks changed. They became more complex, more artistic. He wasn't just trying to hit Jake anymore. He was testing him, challenging him to respond in new ways. And Jake responded. He moved like water, like wind, like music made visible. He flowed around Kethva's strikes, sometimes dropping low, sometimes spinning away. Always in motion, the crowd watched in stunned silence. This wasn't a fight. It was something else entirely. 3 minutes remaining, the announcer said, his voice uncertain, but neither Jake nor Kethvar seemed to hear him. They were lost in their strange dance, each movement flowing into the next, each response creating new possibilities. For the first time in 3,000 years, Kethvar was learning something new. The arena had become completely silent. 50,000 beings watched in amazement as Jake and Kethvar moved together in ways no one had ever seen before. What had started as a challenge to the death had become something beautiful. Jake could feel his heart pounding, but not from fear. He was feeling something he had never experienced before. He was dancing with a being from another world, and somehow, impossibly, they were understanding each other. Kethvar's attacks were no longer attempts to hurt him. They were invitations to respond, to create something new. When the ancient warrior swept his arm in a wide arc, Jake didn't just duck under it. He rolled with the motion, using its energy to spin into a new position. 2 minutes remaining, the announcer said, but his voice seemed to come from far away. "Tell me about your people," Kethvar said, as he launched a series of strikes that Jake flowed around like water. "What makes humans different?" Jake thought about the question as he slipped between the warrior's massive legs, avoiding a downward strike that shattered the arena floor. "We're curious," he said. "We like to try new things, even when they seem impossible." "And you are not afraid of failure?" Jake spun away from a grab that would have crushed his ribs. "We're terrified of failure, but we do it anyway." Kethvar laughed. That sounded like distant thunder. "You do know that I could kill you at any moment." "Yes," Jake said, flowing around another attack. "But you won't. Why not?" "Because you're having fun." The ancient warrior stopped mid-attack, his silver eyes wide. "Fun," he repeated slowly. "I had forgotten that word." "When was the last time you enjoyed a fight?" Jake asked. Kethvar was quiet for a moment, still moving, but no longer attacking. "I cannot remember," he said finally. "Perhaps 1,000 years ago, maybe more." "That's too long," Jake said. "Life should be fun sometimes." 1 minute remaining, the announcer said, his voice shaking, but something had changed in the arena. Kethvar was no longer fighting Jake. He was dancing with him. The ancient warrior began to move in ways that were gentler, more flowing. He was matching Jake's rhythm instead of trying to overpower him. The crowd was on its feet now, making sounds Jake had never heard before. Some aliens were cheering. Others seemed to be crying. Many were just standing in stunned silence. "You?" "No," Kethvar said as they moved together. "I have been thinking about your species since our meeting yesterday." "What about us?" Jake asked, spinning under one of the warrior's graceful sweeps. "You are very young as a species. Most races don't reach the stars until they are hundreds of thousands of years old. Humans did it in just a few thousand." "We're impatient," Jake said with a smile. "No," Kethvar said. "You are eager. There is a difference. Impatience destroys. Eagerness creates. Jake felt a warmth in his chest. Thank you. For what? For teaching me something new about my own people. Cuthbert's movements became even more graceful. And you have taught me something I thought I had lost forever. What's that? Joy. 30 seconds remaining, the announcer said. The crowd was going wild now. Jake could hear Amy and Paul shouting his name. He could see the alien counselors on their feet, staring in disbelief. Jake, Cuthbert said, his voice softer now. I want you to know that in 3,000 years, you are the first opponent who has made me remember why I became a warrior. Why did you become a warrior? Jake asked. To find beauty in the struggle. To connect with others through the art of combat. To learn about different ways of thinking and being. They were moving slowly now, their dance becoming more like a conversation between old friends. Jake could hardly believe that 5 minutes ago he had been terrified of this being. 10 seconds remaining, the announcer said. Will you visit my people? Jake asked. I think you would like Earth. I would like that very much, Cuthbert said. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. The arena bell rang, signaling the end of the 5-minute challenge. Jake Morrison had survived. But more than that, he had done something no one thought possible. He had made the untouchable warrior smile. The crowd erupted in the loudest cheer Jake had ever heard. Beings from across the galaxy were on their feet, shouting and cheering and making sounds of joy in languages Jake didn't recognize. But Jake only had eyes for Cuthbert. The ancient warrior was looking down at him with something like wonder in his silver eyes. In 3,000 years, Cuthbert said, I have fought 10,000 opponents. Warriors, soldiers, champions, heroes. They came with weapons and armor, with anger and fear, with the desire to defeat me. Jake waited, breathing hard but still smiling. But you, small human, you came with something I had forgotten existed. You came with joy. You came with curiosity. You came with the desire to understand, rather than to conquer. The arena was still incredibly loud, but somehow Jake could hear every word clearly. You have shown me that fighting is not about winning or losing, Cuthbert continued. It is about connection, about learning, about finding the beauty in the dance between two beings who respect each other. Jake felt tears in his eyes. You taught me something too. What is that? That being different doesn't have to mean being alone. Cuthbert reached down with one massive hand. For a moment, Jake felt the warrior was going to grab him. Instead, Cuthbert offered his hand in friendship. Jake took it, and the crowd went even wilder. I declare this challenge complete, Cuthbert said, his voice carrying across the arena. The human has not only survived, he has shown me something I believed was lost forever. High Counselor Zara was approaching them, her lion-like face showing. Amazement. Commander Morrison, you have technically won the challenge. But more than that, you have accomplished something far greater. What's that? Jake asked. You have reminded us all what it means to be truly strong, Zara said. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humans. We are honored to have you among us. As Jake and Cuthbert stood together in the center of the arena, surrounded by the cheers of 50,000 beings, Jake realized that he had found something he hadn't even known he was looking for. He had found a friend among the stars. The celebration in the arena continued for almost an hour. Jake had never seen so many different species cheering together. Amy and Paul rushed down to the arena floor, both of them talking so fast Jake could barely understand them. I can't believe you did it, Amy said, hugging him tightly. I thought we were going to have to ship your body back to Earth. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Jake said with a laugh. Paul was staring up at Cuthbert, who was answering questions from a crowd of reporters. Is he really as old as they say? Older, probably, Jake said. But he's not what I expected. What did you expect? A monster, I guess. Someone who enjoyed hurting people. Jake watched as Kethver carefully answered each question, his massive form surprisingly gentle with the smaller reporters. But he's just lonely. He's been the best at what he does for so long that no one could connect with him anymore. The alien counselors were gathered around High Counselor Zara, all of them talking at once. Jake could see them gesturing toward him and Kethvar, their voices excited. "Commander Morrison," Zara called out, approaching with the other counselors. "We need to speak with you." Jake walked over to the group. Amy and Paul closed behind him. "What you did today," Zara said, "it changes everything. For 3,000 years, we have used the Arena Challenge to test new species. We wanted to see their strength, their courage, their ability to face impossible odds. And?" Jake asked. "And you showed us that strength comes in many forms," said Counselor Vex. "You didn't defeat Kethver with weapons or armor. You defeated him with understanding." "I didn't defeat him at all," Jake said. "We just found a way to connect." "That's exactly the point," Zara said. "The Galactic Council has been thinking about war and conflict for too long. We have forgotten about cooperation and friendship." Another counselor, a tall being with blue skin and silver hair, stepped forward. "My name is Counselor Era. I represent the Mindari people. We are telepaths, and we felt something today that we have never felt before." "What was that?" Jake asked. "Perfect harmony between two minds," Era said. "You and Kethvar were so in sync that even we could feel it. It was beautiful." Jake felt his face getting red. "We were just dancing." "Yes," Era said. "And in that dance, you showed us something we had forgotten. That different species can work together in ways we never imagined." Kethver finished with the reporters and walked over to join the group. Up close, Jake could see that the ancient warrior's crystal armor was actually quite beautiful. It wasn't just protection. It was art. "Counselors," Kethver said, bowing slightly, "I wish to make a request." "Of course," Zara said. "What do you need?" "I have served as champion for 3,000 years," Kethvar said. "I have tested hundreds of species and found them all wanting. But today, this human has shown me that I was testing the wrong things." "What do you mean?" Vex asked. "I was testing their ability to fight," Kethver said. "But fighting is not what makes a species worthy of joining the council. Understanding is what matters. The ability to see beyond differences and find common ground." Jake looked up at the ancient warrior. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that the Arena Challenge should end," Kethvar said. "It has served its purpose, but that purpose is outdated. The galaxy needs builders, not just fighters. It needs dreamers, not just warriors." The counselors looked at each other in surprise. "But the challenge has been tradition for thousands of years," one of them said. "And traditions can change," Kethvar replied. "Jake has shown me that growth comes from adapting, not from staying the same forever." Zara nodded slowly. "What would you suggest instead?" "Let each species show what they do best," Kethvar said. "Let them demonstrate how they can contribute to the galaxy. Some will offer strength. Others will offer wisdom. Some will bring technology. Others will bring art." "And what will humans bring?" Era asked, looking at Jake. Jake thought about it for a moment. "I think we bring questions," he said finally. "We're always asking what if and why not. We like to try new things, even when everyone says they won't work. Like dancing with an ancient warrior instead of fighting him," Amy said with a smile. "Exactly like that," Jake agreed. Kethver placed one massive hand on Jake's shoulder. "This human has given me a gift I thought I had lost forever. He has reminded me what it feels like to be surprised, to learn something new, to make a friend. What will you do now?" Paul asked the ancient warrior. "I think it is time for me to explore the galaxy again," Kethver said. "I have been standing still for too long. Perhaps I will visit Earth and learn more about human culture." "You'd be welcome," Jake said. "Though you might want to work on fitting through doorways." Cuthbert laughed that thunder-like laugh. "I am sure we can figure something out." Over the next few hours, the formal ceremonies took place. Earth was officially welcomed into the Galactic Council. Treaties were signed, trade agreements were discussed, and plans were made for human ambassadors to visit other worlds. But Jake found himself thinking about something else. As he watched the different species working together, celebrating together, he realized that what had happened in the arena was bigger than just one challenge. "You know what I think?" he said to Amy and Paul as they prepared to return to their ship. "What?" Amy asked. "I think we just changed how the whole galaxy thinks about strength." "How so?" Paul asked. "Before today, everyone thought strength meant being the biggest, the fastest, the most dangerous," Jake said. "But we showed them that real strength comes from understanding, from being willing to try something new, from caring more about connection than conquest." Amy smiled. "You mean we taught them that it's okay to dance instead of fight?" "Something like that," Jake said. As they walked through the corridors of Centauri Prime, Jake noticed something different. The aliens they passed weren't just staring at them anymore. Many were nodding, some were smiling, and a few even tried to say hello in broken English. "They're not afraid of us anymore," Paul observed. "No," Jake said. "They're curious about us. And that's much better." When they reached their ship, Cuthbert was waiting for them. The ancient warrior had somehow managed to fit his massive frame into the docking bay, though Jake wasn't sure how. "I wanted to say goodbye properly," Cuthbert said, "and to give you something." He held out a small piece of crystal armor about the size of Jake's palm. It gleamed with the same inner light as the rest of his armor. "What is it?" Jake asked. "A piece of my armor," Cuthbert said. "It will grow to fit any wearer, and it carries the memory of our dance. When you wear it, you will remember that strength comes not from standing alone, but from reaching out to others." Jake took the crystal piece, surprised by how warm it felt. "Thank you. I'll treasure it." "And I will treasure the lesson you taught me," Cuthbert said, "that an old warrior can still learn new steps." As the U.S. Liberty pulled away from Centauri Prime, Jake stood at the window, watching the massive station grow smaller. He thought about everything that had happened, everything that had changed. "So what now?" Amy asked, joining him at the window. "Now we go home and tell everyone what we learned," Jake said. "That the galaxy is full of friends we just haven't met yet. And if we run into more challenges?" Jake smiled, thinking about the piece of crystal armor in his pocket and the ancient warrior who had become his friend. "Then we dance our way through them." Behind them, Paul was already working on his report to Earth Command. He was trying to explain how a farm boy from Ohio had faced the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy, and won without throwing a single punch. It was going to be a very interesting report. As their ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying them back toward Earth, Jake made a mental note to sign up for more dance lessons when he got home. After all, you never knew when you might need to dance with an alien. And in the arena on Centauri Prime, a small plaque was being installed. It read, "In memory of the day we learned that the strongest warriors are those who choose to dance instead of fight. May we never forget the lesson of the human who touched the untouchable." The galaxy would never be quite the same.